I want to play you this clip of Tom Brady ripping the NFL. He was a guest on Stephen A. Smith's podcast. Let's play the clip.
I think there's a lot of mediocrity in today's NFL. Yeah. I don't see the excellence that I saw in the past.
Why not? Why not? Why do you think that is?
I think the coaching isn't as good as it was. I don't think the development of young players is as good as it was. I don't think the schemes are as good as they were. I think the rules have allowed a lot of bad habits to get into the actual performance of the game. Mm-hmm. So I just think the product, in my opinion, is less than what it's been. I think guys are competitive. Guys play hard. I look at a lot of players like Ray Lewis and Rodney Harrison and Ronnie Lott and guys that impacted the game in a certain way. And every hit they would have made would have been a penalty. You know, and I your coach is complaining about their own player being tackled and not necessarily, why don't they talk to their player about how to protect himself, how to get rid of the ball, how to throw it, how to run out of bounds, how to get down, how to lower your pad level. We used to work on the fundamentals of those things all the time. Now they're trying to be regulated all the time. You know, I think the offensive players need to protect themselves. It's not up to the defensive player to protect the offensive player. A defensive player needs to protect himself. You shouldn't ask the offensive player to protect him. And I think a lot of the way that the rules have come into play have allowed this. You can essentially play carefree, and then if anyone hits you hard, there's a penalty. And it's very different than how I played. I didn't throw the ball to certain areas because I was afraid players were going to get knocked out. Mm-hmm. That's the reality. Wow. I didn't throw it to the middle when I played Ray Lewis because you knock him out of the game, and I couldn't afford to lose a good player. So guys like that, the only way to beat skill was physicality. And that was a physical sport. You don't get into a boxing match and say, I want to beat you, but I don't really want to hit you that hard.
We've heard Tom Brady make similar comments in the past. I think he's being 90% completely transparent. There's still 10% he's leaving out. But before I expose that 10%, I want to know your reaction to what we just heard from Tom Brady.
I think in general, most people would agree with them. You know, and I watched this Monday night game with two elite quarterbacks, and quite frankly, I was not that entertained. I thought the quarterback play was very mediocre, right? And these guys were considered elite, Hurts and Mahomes. It is ironic, though, that one of the rule changes that Brady laments was basically done to protect him after that 2008 hit on his knee with Bernard Pollard. There's a specific rule now. You can't go low on a quarterback, which I don't actually mind because there's only one thing worse than watching today's football. It's watching today's football with backup quarterbacks. So if you want to protect starting quarterbacks a little bit more, I kind of get it. But they have legislated everything out of it. But I do wonder, though, when Tom Brady was part of the league as an active player, and I would assume that he had some influence, and did he get the NFLPA? Jason, am I not wrong, or am I correct in saying, wait a minute, didn't the association, his union, fight for the lessening of practice, less hitting, less full pads? Didn't the players kind of cause this? They were the ones who enabled some of these changes.
Steve, I don't know why you're being critical of Tom Brady here, because he was saying this stuff while in the league.
Okay.
He said this stuff previously with Jim Gray. He doesn't have that kind of influence. He's one voice. And yeah, maybe he was the most popular player, but he can't put a stop to this. He was complaining in real time. He was saying like, hey, I'm getting away with things and I'm setting all these records and all this other stuff, but is it as impressive as the stuff that was going on previously? He was being a voice, and even right now, this guy's got like a $350 million contract with Fox Sports, where next year he'll be allegedly on TV promoting the NFL, and he's calling out the product in real time. The only thing I think he left out, where he's not ready to go, willing to go, is I don't think it's being coached as well. I think the players are anti-coaching, anti-practice, the majority of the players, they want it to be less physical. They don't want football to be the test of will that it once was. They're completely different than Tom Brady. He's not willing to call that out because he doesn't want to deal with the backlash. That's the 10% to me he left out. The players want the big money contracts and as much safety as can be provided to them. They want the game to be as easy. They don't want to practice. They don't want to get hit. They just want the money. They're not like Tom Brady or Ray Lewis or any of these other guys that were out there like, no, man, I want to prove that I'm just as good as Jim Brown, Walter Payton, John Elway, Dan Marino. These guys, nah, I just want the check.
Yeah, and to your point about hard coaching, that just got me thinking. It is deep-seated, that issue. Most players don't want to be coached hard, and they're never coached hard because they are literally transferring, not only in college or high school. I hear youth programs, Pop Warner, where kids are changing schools at like 8, 9, 10. I'm like, really? Like, because they don't like the coach, they're not getting the playing time, we don't like the position because of other politics. And then there's a lot of players, they go to like 3 high schools in 4 years. And I'm thinking, really? So now you really can't learn a system. Coaches have to constantly recruit players that are on their own team in high school. Then you get to the NCAA for as long as that lasts. Now you have the transfer portal. Now you have the NIL. So by the time you get to the National Football League, you almost believe that you're insulated from any type of harsh criticism or coaching. And I've always said, if you are a player without stability, you can't really learn a system completely. You can't. So this thing is systemic. It's a breakdown that begins at the youth levels. I don't know how you're going to change it, quite frankly. In the immortal words of Ock Nation, there are no solutions. It's over.
Well, just think of this, and this is why I think Tom Brady needs to be applauded. This is the most accomplished, the most celebrated, arguably the greatest NFL player of all time, saying the product's no good. That, hey, this is, I don't enjoy this. This isn't as good as what it used to be. That takes a big set, and hats off to Tom Brady. And I'll give you another guy, and this will shock you given, how much I criticize Deion Sanders. But Deion Sanders has basically been saying the exact same thing as it relates to the Hall of Fame. All standards of performance are being lowered, and we're calling good great, and we're calling mediocre football next level and great. And I think you made a great point about the Monday night game this past week. The Chiefs and the Eagles, the alleged 2 best teams in football. Neither quarterback threw for more than 170 yards. It was 21-17. The Chiefs didn't score a point in the second half. And I can't put this all on Patrick Mahomes because Scantling drops a touchdown pass late in the game that, and it's part of that was like, man, my whole argument about the value of receivers is really being proven in Kansas City, watching Patrick Mahomes struggle without Tyreek Hill and without these great receivers. But I give Tom Brady, I give Deion Sanders credit for acknowledging what most everybody else has been paid off to ignore. All standards, all performance is being lowered, and we're just covering it up with marketing, promotion, and hype rather than actually celebrating true greatness.
Jason, to your point, a couple of them. The Monday night game, the deep post to Scantling. Let's say that's caught and the Chiefs win. You know what the reality is, though? Mahomes had 43 attempts and did not even get close to 250 yards. Even if you give him those yards, he is dinking and dunking. It's just, there comes a point you're like, hey, guys, can you draft a receiver? Because it's time to admit it. You missed Tyreek Hill. The other thing that's really interesting about Tom Brady, I recently read a book from Seth Wickersham called Better to Be Feared. I've talked about it. It's about that 20-year run with Belichick, Brady, and Robert Kraft. And I have to give Brady a lot of credit, though, because he's from a different era. He was literally 7th on the depth chart at Michigan, thought about transferring, decided to stick it out. And even his senior year, he was forced to share snaps with this wonderkin named Drew Henson, who was this 5-star guy who was the prototype. But, Brady was toughened. He was hardened through the process, and then he was given no breaks. And throughout his career, even in his 18th, 19th year, he is still looking for ways to get better. I mean, I came away reading that book, which was an excellently done book by Seth Wickersham. I came away with more respect for Brady's work ethic. I really did. Like, what an admirable guy. I mean, this guy goes on vacation, Jason, and not only does he bring a football to throw, he brings his pads and his helmet to actually replicate what it feels like in a game. No wonder why Giselle was getting sick of this football stuff, right? So, but here's the issue with Brady as an announcer. See, you give him a lot of credit for being outspoken now with Stephen A. I'm with you. I hope he has enough guts to say it when he's on air for Fox or whatever network hired him. Because I still remember Joe Montana, when he got one of those network jobs, he said nothing. It was so banal. So if he really wants to make a mark and be the Charles Barkley type of the National Football League, say it next year when you're on the air. At that point, I will start giving him Emmy Awards.